If you're looking for some straight-up marketing advice that's super chilled and also a bit of a laugh, then grab yourself a drink and get ready for Marketing and Margaritas, a podcast that makes marketing entertaining. Brought to you by Rebel Nation, direct from regional Queensland.
Hello and welcome to Marketing Margaritas. Today I'm joined by Maddy Connors, Maddy for short, and we're going to be talking about how to manage multiple brands. So Maddy, you've racked up some significant achievements in your life on your own right, but you also married into a local Mackay family who we all know and love, the Connors, and they are quite big on business themselves as well. And that's where you sort of come into this place where you guys have all these different brands and everything that you manage. Like obviously, I don't even know how long I've known you for.
Well, so I've been part of that family for nearly 10 years.
Yeah,
so,
I don't think I met you first up though. I think it was like through Chamber or something.
Yes, probably. Yeah.
It's been a handful of years anyway that I met you. Had a cocktail or two, but today we're actually going to be talking about the ins and outs of businesses. So, as I was explaining to you before, I have found, like, for me personally, like, I've had different businesses at different times. I've just got 2 at the moment. But I've got clients who can have, like, up to 6 or 7 brands. Or, well, no, not brands. Sometimes I have 6 or 7 businesses. Sometimes there's even more brands because of product lines and stuff. And we're trying to help them navigate how to best manage those brands and businesses, etc. Obviously, we come in on the marketing side, but I know from the business side too, like, managing one business is a fucking lot of work. Managing multiple there's all different kinds of decisions and opportunities that come up, but obviously new challenges as well. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Sure. But before we do that, we're going to introduce you properly to everyone. So give us some background. Tell us about some of the highlights of the career that is Maddy Connors.
So I guess when I first met Damien, we really only had the dispensary. It was about 30 staff. So that's sort of where it started. And then from there, obviously we had Burp as well, and then from there it's really grown. So we've been through such a journey with all of our different business ventures. And
so that's been over the last decade. So it started out with Burp Dispensary,
and the catering side of things.
Any food, yes.
Any food,
I remember I've used Any Food quite back in the day and stuff too,
So that's sort of where that started. But I guess prior to that, even since I was a little girl, my mum and dad had a family business.
Me too.
So they had a dancing school, and then Dad had a small cattle property.
That's right. I do remember you talking about your mum's dancing school. Yeah.
So I was talking to my sister last night, and we were sort of chatting about our journey of where it sort of all started. And it was folding envelopes and bills and having that confidentiality.
Child labour. Oh, beautiful. No, that's lovely.
So I think from the beginning, I sort of always wanted to, I guess, be a part of business or be involved in something like that. And then from there, I guess I enjoyed, entering basses and stuff like that with my dad on my days off from school. On my
I'm sorry, did you just say you enjoyed entering basses?
I know. I think it's weird.
Maddy, you're a beautiful person, but I don't know whether people are going to totally believe that we can reconcile that with that.
Give me a spreadsheet any day. I love it.
Okay, cool. No, I mean, spready I get. I fucking love a spready, but entering basses.
I know. I know. Can you believe it?
I mean, there's numbers people, and then there is numbers people.
I think, and just even seeing the change in like software and stuff, that's just something that's really excited me as well. I'm like a total nerd. But anyway,
so I think there's nothing wrong with loving what you do. Trust me, it's a better way of living life.
So I think that's sort of where it started, and then I sort of, I guess, going back to where I really wanted to start my career I was like, well, maybe I'll do a traineeship in business. So I did work experience in an accounting firm, started a traineeship in grade 10, and then basically worked every single one of my holidays up until grade 12. Wow. And I loved it.
And again, coming from that family of business, like the same thing, like my dad owned a servo as I was growing up. So it was open 7 days a week.
Yeah.
My dad worked 7 days a week, like, pretty much my whole life sort of thing. So, and then my mum was a teacher who obviously, like, they spend all night marking and all, like, well, good teachers, you know what I mean? So my parents worked, till midnight or every day and all that sort of stuff. So for me, I was like, that's what you do with business.
And I think
this
it
is
sort
what
of
work
shapes
is.
who you are and how your work
you think it's
ethic
normal.
is. Yeah, you do. You think, like, don't get me wrong, it's nice to have a holiday as well. But
I have learned the whole taking a break is better than having a breakdown thing.
But I think that's something that's sort of, I guess, instilled in you from a young age. And
I get that.
Yeah, so I started this traineeship, and then obviously after school I went to university and studied full time and worked full time.
Did you do accounting?
I did accounting.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
I
so you
studied
stuck
accounting.
with it that whole time.
Yeah.
You were like, yep, inputting BASs, loving spreadsheets.
I love it. Even when they don't reconcile, you just fix it up and off you go.
Well, and because sometimes going through those traineeships and stuff, like, it's good to get that work experience and then be like, is this actually something I want to be doing? Because I know so many people that I went through uni with who, like, I'm one of the few people I know who went through uni at my time and am still in the career that I chose then. You know what I mean?
That's like sort of uncommon also. But I think work experience definitely is. I don't think kids do it enough these days, and I think that's probably something businesses probably should get behind a little bit more. Because I feel like, I don't know, the generation is totally different to what it sort of was, and I think having that experience of seeing what the job's all about and
what it's like from that actual inside thing, not just what it might look like on YouTube or whatever too.
Absolutely,
you know what I mean? But agree.
Yeah, and work it doesn't just happen overnight. Success doesn't just happen overnight. So it's so
so true.
Yeah, but anyway,
and even then, it doesn't really happen either. You just gotta keep plugging away at things. I swear to God, man.
So then from there, I guess I finished my degree. I had some great mentors along the way. I went out, the firm that I was working with, they split up, so I went on with one of the partners, and he...
Actually, speaking of uni too, I believe you were a scholarship recipient from one of our clients too, Community Bank Serena.
I was a second year. I think
you were one of the first. I think you were one of the first through the actual scholarship program.
Oh, okay, right, yeah.
And here you are, a local success story today.
Marie will be very excited. So actually from that scholarship, I actually encouraged one of our employees who actually went through an accounting degree as well to actually apply for that scholarship, and she got that as well. So that was really exciting. I think what they do for the community is fantastic. I know,
I love going to those presentations,
it's amazing.
Man. It's all have their shit together too, and I'm just like, oh my God, I'm 40 and I'm not that good.
Stop it.
They're so well rounded.
No, I think it's fantastic.
It's just people always, it's quite easy to talk down about the upcoming generations and stuff and that kind of thing. But then
attending
you
things
meet
like
some of these kids and you're just like, actually, no, we're in good hands.
Yep, it's all good.
There's some real stars out there.
Everything's going to be fine.
Yeah, and you employ one of them. That's even better.
So that was really cool to receive that. So then from there, I went into.
You said you were at the firm that split and you went with one?
Yep, I went with one. He was a really big thinker, so that I think, and just thought differently about business, about the sort of normal accounting industry.
Okay.
So I think that sort of, and that type of thinking, like that.
So
really
being a really good
excites
mentor
me.
for you
Great
too.
mentor.
Yeah.
And I think, and he's doing great business at the moment. He's sort of taken an industry that probably needs a lot of help and is really trying to like step it up, and it's just incredible to see. So
cool.
so that was cool to work with him.
I think there's also something about staying local too. Like, I'm a local girl, and like I was going to move, I never did. I don't regret it, but it's because part of that too is that you get to see people, like how the town changes and shifts over time, and it's sort of like those connections and networks and relationships and everything. Like, it all just keeps getting richer and richer as time. Like, I know some people feel like they suffocate in small towns because it is all the same people they know, but
I think it's who you surround yourself with too. Like,
I think that's a really good point as well.
It's funny because this person I'm talking about, I have have the last 4 years done a lot of work with Chamber of Commerce in Mackay, and I've sort of been on the events committee trying to get the events happening. And I recently booked a speaker, Tom Potter, who he started Eagle Boys.
Yeah, I was going to say that didn't ring a bell. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so he's come in. It was funny because I Googled him the other day, and then this person who, Tim, who I used to work with, he was interviewing him on Google, like he was the person doing that interview. So it was kind of amazing. Like, I'm like, good on you, man. Yeah. Like, you've done good. So, so I guess from there, from that, I left public accounting, public practice, and I went into a management accounting role, which I guess was a
What
mining.
does that mean, management accounting?
So it's, I guess, you sort of focused on the management side of things, like the business reporting and internal accounting type thing, not tax accounting.
Okay. So you're not just like preparing BASs and stuff. You're like doing like cash flow projections and
Yeah.
Okay. Alrighty.
Dealing with so it was a mining company, so it was in particular like rostering and all that sort of thing as well. So the pay.
I just thought it was all accounting.
Yeah.
There you go.
No. I did know that I didn't want to be in tax for the rest of my life. I'm super happy that I did it because it's sort of given me a good grounding and a good understanding.
I was just about to say, would it give you a good foundation? It's kind of like knowing that side of things. Like I remember back in the day, like sitting there, like you said, with envelopes when you were kids. Yeah. That was my first post-grad marketing job. So I get out of uni or fresh from my degree and I am folding flyers and stuffing them in envelopes. I could do those fuckers fast though, man. Like I swear to God. But it's one of those things where I'm like, it's like that's part of my journey. And you do then appreciate other things so much because you're like, I used to be that person. I know what that's like. And I know how to make that role fun too. So it's good to have that full circle of it. So I went into this management accounting role in a mining company. From there, I was probably there a year and a half. I did learn some great things. I went out on site. One of a highlight there for me was I had, one of the bosses, I was 20 years old. I had one of the bosses say to me a couple of years later, we still have used processes that you implemented all those years ago. And it's just like that for me, that was an exciting thing to hear. You had a lasting positive impact on that business and you were but a baby.
I was a baby.
I mean, you're still quite a baby, no offense, even though you just had a baby.
Yeah, I did. So then from there, I basically met Damien, who is my husband now, and then they had the dispensary in Burp at the time. They just had started negotiations with the hospital for their contract there, which we've got a cafe as well there.
Oh, I didn't know you guys ran that one. There you go. So for those playing at home, dispensary and Burp are restaurants.
Yes, correct.
Just in case you got it. There are non-locals.
Restaurant bar, yep. And
and
it's now been rebranded cafe, restaurant, bar. So
right.
There you go. The evolution.
I guess that leads us to where we are now. Yeah. So what is your role in the family of businesses? And then can you run us through what those different brands are?
Yeah, sure. So my role now, so the last sort of 10 years, I've headed up the commercial manager is my role.
Okay.
I've headed up the finance team and I guess office manager as such as well. In our world, we deal with finance, we deal with compliance, and then all the tech, all the software and all that type of thing. And so I guess from there it's like contracts and tenders.
So is compliance like permits and all that kind of stuff too? Because it's the food industry, like
absolutely.
You guys have a bunch of things to manage there.
Yeah, so just making sure all of that sort of in order and
tenders. God, I hate tenders.
and then I guess more recently, so I've got, like I was saying before, in our team, like we've got Eleni, who works really closely with me. She's come out of school. She's amazing. She's really grown. She's just finished her accounting degree.
Oh,
so that's been really cool. Yeah.
God, it's always such a highlight of your life, that moment when you actually finish your fucking degree.
I know. I'm like, you're nearly there, babe. So she's fantastic. So then that sort of let me, I guess, not free up a little bit, but obviously I've had a baby. But then I've sort of come back into this also like commercial marketing role as well, where I sort of deal with like grants and tenders and proposals and contracts and stuff like that. And sort of, I guess we've always sort of got a project happening, or 2 or 3. That's just how we roll.
I was like, a project? Lucky you.
So
even my business is always multiple, and then you have to try and choose which one, and it's a whole thing. Anyway.
So yeah, I guess working closely with the boys and sort of project coordination, that type of thing as well. So that's where I'm sitting at the moment, and I actually really love doing that type of work.
That's a lot of diversity in there too, But that's the thing though, that's pulling on all your different skill sets and stuff though. Like obviously, like yes, the numbers and accounting and everything, but also you've obviously got that love of technology and software, and adopting new tech and everything is really important.
Yeah.
Then that side, like you know, you said about the processes and procedures or whatever, like you know what I mean? Like it's all these things from your. I always think that's so interesting how, like, I don't know about you, but I sort of feel like nothing was on purpose in my career.
Yeah.
I was just like, la, 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 doing stuff, whatever. Oh, that looks good. I'll do that.
Yeah.
And then it's kind of like where I am now. I'm like, everything I've done really draws in and helps me for what I'm doing today. Like it looks like it's by design, but it sure as fuck was not.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. That's where I'm at the moment. I guess I was talking to someone the other day. Damien and I were having a bit of a chat about this podcast, and he was sort of saying, you know, I guess Maddie, think of like an equilateral triangle. You've got 3 sides, and that's your 3 directors. There's creativity, there's technology gaps, there's all sorts of financial gaps, there's all sorts of things, and you're that person in the middle who I guess is, you know, all the ideas sort of come, and then you're sort of, I guess, creating.
Pull it all together.
You're pulling it all that together, and then you're spitting out that vision so we can sort of see.
Spitting out a vision.
Yeah. You know, so then you're like, you come to us with this beautiful presentation and go, this is what we are doing, this is what your ideas are.
And that big picture thinking differently and all that kind of stuff. You've that mentoring you've had along the way as well.
Yeah.
Like,
and this is sort of where we want to head. So and then sort of starting to execute that. So so that's I guess where I'm sitting at the moment.
Dude,
and I love it.
Super
it's really
fun.
exciting.
Yeah. I mean, not the accounts and tenders and grants part, but like you said,
even that I love it. It's like I think it's a challenge because you know you get these grants or you get these tenders.
They're just so badly worded so much of the time.
I know,
I'm like,
and then you're like, what?
And I'm in comms, man. And I like read a question. I'll be like, I have literally no idea what the fuck that means.
And you're really just writing what they want to hear. But it's like I guess but it makes you start thinking, okay, well, no, this is actually a trend in the industry.
The reflection point is useful because you're like,
we do need to.
I haven't just made this up. I actually do know what I'm talking about, and it is good for that. I'll grant you, but it's still frustrating. But I think Damien's right though, man. Like you've got those different parts that put it all together, and then it's one thing to have all those different sides to you, those different skill sets, and to pull all that together. But then to be able to articulate, like communicate that vision to other people and bring them on board, that's leadership too. You know what I mean? Like I think that to me is the crux of it, because not everyone can do that side of things either. So kudos to you, darling.
Thank you.
So yeah, what are the brands?
So the brands, okay. So we've got, like I said, I started, it was like 30 staff. Now we're in 11 locations. We've got 120 staff.
Shit.
Like it's quite busy, and we've got, you know,
oh God, I didn't realize
obviously
they'd gotten that big.
Yeah.
11 locations and 120 staff.
Yeah.
Fuck.
Yeah. We've got a few things in the pipeline for 2025. So can watch his space. But so obviously the dispensary, which is a coffee kitchen bar, which was actually our kitchen, a cafe, and then Burp, and then the dispensary. And then in 2018 we rebranded, brought it all under one banner, used those spaces as event spaces and
because it's kind of evolved over time and stuff.
Yeah.
Is that sort of evolved to suit what the business was wanting, or is that evolving to suit what your customers have been asking for?
I think a bit of everything. Like I think, you know, that sort of everyone, you know, the industry went into sort of more of a casual dining experience rather than your high end, and Burp sort of became a high end, not that it was, but in the town, like in Mackay, it was. So,
yeah, dude, if you wanted to go someplace nice for dinner, it was Burp.
Yeah. So, and then I guess, you know, then you had your coffee culture come in and your breakfast trade. So that's sort of something that's really only evolved in the last, you know, 15 15 to 20 years as well. So then that sort of pushed us to that decision as well.
So you're moving with the trends and stuff. Not trends, I guess, but the trends of hospitality industry.
Hospitality, So and it fluctuates. It's like gyms. One minute people want to do HIIT, 1 minute people want to do Pilates. So you just sort of got to
I'm sure that's what they do. All I know is that our town has way too many gyms. But anyway,
so then we have the Base Hospital Cafe, which was home base, but we rebranded that Burns.
Right.
As
that's right, because you guys bought Burns, which is like one of the longest loved brands of Mackay Mackay food culture as well.
Well, 92 years I think it's been running. So
yeah, right.
Yeah, so 2019.
And for a pie factory, man, it's, you know what I mean? But
it's iconic.
It is. It really is.
Yeah. So we just and I think seeing older brands and things that are iconic in Mackay, even buildings, like just giving them another lease on life, giving them that energy.
But people love that too.
Yeah, inspiring others to do the same.
You're always going to have people who are like, it's never been as good because now they've got something different over. But most people, I think, appreciate when something that they love is given a new lease on life, because then it's like, well, now it's going to last for the next 50 years sort of thing, Yeah,
absolutely. And you're always going to have people that knock things that you do or whatever, but as long as you believe in what you're doing and for what reasons.
That's a much more tactful way of saying it. I think what you meant to say is fuck them.
Maybe after a few of these we'll say it.
Okay, so we've got dispensary, we've got the rebranded. Hospital Cafe.
Yep. Then we bought in 2019, then we also had the Avenue Cafe, which we sold as well.
That's right, I forgot that used to be
yours. That actually happened in the same week that we bought Burns. So we sold that cafe and bought
I do love Avenue. Burns. That is a really nice cafe still too.
It's a great cafe, yeah. So that was... So that all happened in the same week. This is what I mean. We don't just do one project. It's like 3 or 4 at one time. So then, once we got into the factory, obviously our plan was to obviously modernise it because it was
running for 92 years, pie factory. Who knows what would have been in the background?
Yeah. Look, they did a great job, but it was pretty run down. Like, I mean, it was from the 1950s. That's when that factory was built.
In that location, yeah.
So there was still like equipment from that age, like from that era. So I guess that was sort of our plan with that. And then from there, because we sort of had this idea. Because then we started having quite a few brands, it was time to sort of consolidate. So we really, so that's where the dispensary got consolidated from 3 brands to 1. Then Burns, I basically rebranded Home Base to the Burns Cafe, and then from there, like our new cafes were all going to be Burns cafes. So, and it sort of acts as a centralized kitchen for all of those locations.
Okay, so you've got those multiple locations, but some of those locations are the same brand sort of thing. Because you've got Burns at Base, but you've got Burns over at Marta too, don't you?
Yeah, so that's at Willits Road, so just across from the Marta. Yep. So we've got, that came, I think that was 2021. I can't actually remember.
We won't hold it to you, anyway. It's fine.
So then that started, and then a year later we opened Andergrove in the Coles complex there. So there's a Burns shop.
I don't live on North Side anymore, so I have no idea about these things. Rightio.
Right. We don't go over the bridge very much often either.
It's shocking though. Hey, Mackay's not that big, man. Like, I'll go out to Northern Beaches before I actually go out to like North Side. Anyway.
So I guess so sort of from that was sort of one thing that we decided just to I guess to help with everything, to help with your branding, to help with your customer,
and your resources. And that's the thing. Well, I guess that segues nicely then into that managing of multiple brands. And I think that's one of the common things. Like, I know for me personally, like I said, I've only got the 2 brands at the moment, but we have clients who have multiple, and it's sort of like that for the resourcing part of it, like where to devote your time and energy, but also like you don't want to confuse your customers by having all of these things out. And like even just like we've got a client who they've got one brand now, but they've got multiple locations. And so they're like, do we start multiple Facebook pages or do we have the one? And, you know, like all these, there's so many nuances to, like I said, running one business is tough, but running multiple is like a whole new ball game.
And I guess too, it's like a part of growth. Like, so we, you know, for example, like entity wise, like we started with one entity that sort of captured all of these brands, but then sort of when we bought Burns, it took sort of a year to get sort of sort it all out. But then we're like, no, this needs to be its own entity. So then, and then even like moving over, it's a lot of effort to, you know, move, you know, leases and all sorts of things over to this new entity.
Phone accounts and all kinds of stuff, man. Like
and how far do you go? But I guess having that real defined, this is this brand, this is this brand, these are these customers, these are these customers, and so I guess you just need to sort of, it's just almost like writing it all down and just going, right, this needs to be moved over, this needs to be moved over, but and sort of realizing that there is two very different brands, even though it's in the hospitality industry.
Well, and that's it. It's kind of like, because it's not like you've got like, oh, here's the mechanic shop and here's the pie shop. You know, like it's sort of like, here's the restaurant cafe and here's the pie shop / cafe kind of, because they don't just do pies. Like it is kind of, it's cafe
and we've moved, and even like all of our catering, like that moved over to Burns as well, because that was sort of simplified rather than.
That's right, because it was any food was the catering arm and everything too. Okay. All right. So now you basically have like the dispensary and its arms, and Burns and its arms.
And then we've got now, and then we also bought a motel, which you know about. So then that sort of led us into that. And honestly, we bought that because it was an opportunity with staffing, because we couldn't get staff. So we went through this period where it was really hard to sort of retain staff, and even and then trying to find, you know, the housing's like
accommodation.
Accommodation's crazy, and
that's the thing. It's people are like wanting to recruit and do all these sort of things, but then it's like, okay, if we recruit, where are they then going to live? And it's a much bigger issue. Like housing is not something that just, you know, one business can solve. Like it's going to take multiple, you know, different organizations, and you know what I mean. Like it's
absolutely like it's
they're putting
all
together
stakeholders.
That's it. There's so much that's happening with that. But the fact is, you guys are being proactive and going, all right, this is a problem that we can sit around and wait for everyone else to figure out, or we can put a solution in place for ourselves. Which I really admire, because I think too many people just sit around and wait for someone else to solve their problems. It's a bugbear of mine. You may not be able to tell.
We had this, like, there was, you know, these, I don't know if you're familiar with like the visa situation of staff and stuff, but so I
don't really had to do it myself. No,
the government sort of opened up this these 88-day visas where they would usually just do the fruit picking and stuff, but they opened it up to hospitality working as well, which was fantastic for us. But trying to find someone a home for 88 days in, you know, a proper rental or something like that just wasn't viable. So so that was sort of that sort of led us to that decision. Obviously it was quite run down. So we definitely went over budget on the renovation, but it needed to happen.
Isn't that what renovations are, though?
What budget?
I know.
I know an accounnt, but
I would say renovation budget should always just be doubled, man. Like it's
But anyway, but it didn't matter, because we now have this asset that, you know, we use it for leisure stays, we use it for corporate bookings, and we use it for our own staff. So
which is great, because that's, I mean, again, you've just created your own solution there. You know what I mean? Like it's sort of it's purpose built. You can do what you want with it, but it's still revenue generating.
Absolutely, and I think that's one thing too, like just that calculated risk, that's really important. So like
it's the calculated part I sometimes miss, but you know.
But just knowing, like, you know, what's the least you can get out of this, what's the most you can get out of this, and sort of you know, everything in between, you know, just making sure that you've got all that covered before you make a decision like that.
It sounds like you're trying to do things the grown-up way, Maddie. Exactly. I'm more just I think this might work. I'll just have a crack and see how it goes. Oh no, this didn't go well. That's right, I'll try this. Like, each to their own.
I'm not sure the directors is going to fly with that response. Just see how it goes.
That's why I think I need to be policed or something. Like I need supervision. Like I need a board or something. I just think that's much better to have like a few of you. So it's sort of like someone has to kind of approve your ideas. Anyway, sure.
That does work well for us. We're having all the directors and just everyone's sort of ideas, and sometimes it's a 2 against 1 situation. Sometimes everyone's on track, but it's that works well. I think having people to bounce off works well.
And it's that sounding board, but it's a very invested sounding board.
Yeah.
It's not just someone being like, give it a go. It's like, that sounds great, but have we thought of the ramifications?
So then I guess, from there we've got then just a couple of other contracts where we run kitchens, like in an aged care facility in a boarding school. But so then that builds our last entity. And that's all of our brands at the moment.
Stay tuned.
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess then that, what we want to talk about today too is leading on from that is what are some of the things that you have learnt that have worked well? Because like I said, there's a multitude of challenges that come out of it. What's some of the stuff that you've learned along the way where it's like I would recommend if you're in this situation, these are some things to keep in mind.
Okay, so one of the first things that we've done, and we've always thought this is really important, is probably centralize our resources. So
that's such a smart move. I think, it's rather than it's kitchen on the table. I think people do like spreading those things out and stuff like that is like trying to, because like you're saying before, like keeping things very linear is in the sense that this is this is this. That can be on the front end.
Yes, and I think it keeps a very separate vision for your different brands, but then having
on the back end,
like I think for example, our factory, like that's a centralized kitchen for our cafes, and that so rather than having a kitchen in every single one of these cafes and trying to staff the back of house in those situations,
you just do bulk from the one location and then
distribute
it out.
So that's probably, that works there. Another big one would be our office. So having in sometimes in small businesses you don't have the funds to have one whole marketing person and one whole finance person and one whole admin person, but in this instance you can,
because you consolidate
and centralize those positions so then they can work on these different brands. And I guess just having that clear communication with the team, just to help with that clarity of each of the brands, that's just something you just have to keep going, pushing with.
And I think not expecting that people will know that either. Like it is something that you have to keep reminding them, like this is the audience for these guys. That's a great idea for this brand, but that's not something we would do for this brand.
That's right. And it's just having those conversations, because there's always ideas flying around the office, and then I guess we do have that luxury of saying, okay, well that idea is cool, but it wouldn't work for that brand, it would work for that brand.
We could slot it in over here. And I think that's the thing too, like you said, like centralizing, it's sort of, when you buy businesses especially, you're kind of inheriting all of someone else's like backlog of stuff that they haven't wanted to deal with. And you sort of, and it could be like, leases and office space and this programming for this and all kinds of bits and bobs everywhere to then sort of, each time it's like, imagine just kind of like absorbing that in and bringing it over to what you already, like your system, your setup that you already know works. Is that kind of how you sort of do it?
Yeah.
So you're homogenizing.
Well, it just makes it easier, and it's and probably that brings me to my next point, just like leveraging on technology. Like, so that's probably and obviously
that's
like I love technology, but and I think it's a very exciting world where we're all heading, and I guess the one thing you can probably be carried away with all the new things and all the butterflies and all of that sort of thing.
We're talking about like AI and stuff as well, like there's some things where I think that like it's kind of, I think how people whether it's AI or software or whatever it might be, it's how you adapt and use technology. Like, it's, you still need to be the master of something.
Absolutely.
Don't let it be the master of you. When you let a program or software or a bot do the thinking for you, that's generally not going to lead to good outcomes.
I know. I was thinking about this because I think too, like, and I think you are as well. We're in a generation between two generations where you've got this older generation who have done everything manually. They know how the ins and outs and all that type of thing. Then you've got this new generation that are just want to click,
pressing a button.
They're just like, yeah, sure.
And your industry is perfect for this because you've got bookkeeping, for example. Like, you probably actually know how my ob comes up with its numbers.
Yeah.
Whereas I can enter data into QuickBooks or MyOb or whatever it is, but I don't fucking know what's happening on the back end of it. That's the mystery for me. But it is.
So I think that's what I think that's something really important. Like, when you are using these technologies, you really need to understand the ins and outs of them.
What they're actually doing.
Them.
Yeah.
Which is something, I guess. I mean, I think some of the girls, it drives them nuts that I make them learn all these things, but I think it's really important.
It's like, Maddie, you're all young and stuff. Why are you being so old school?
Yeah. It's like, I don't really care how this works. It just works. I'm like, no, but you need to understand, because I think,
because it won't always work.
It won't always work. So
and then you'll be able to spot when it doesn't work, and you'll know how to fix it.
And you can, if something goes wrong, you can work back, troubleshoot and reconcile and all that type of thing. Because
oh my God, reconciling. when reconciling, I find super fun. I'm like, match. And then as soon as there's something that's out of scope, I'm just like, this is too hard. No, man, can you sort? I just don't get how people enjoy hunting down where something's gone wrong in an accounts program. That's a complete mystery to me.
It's usually user error. So don't make the mistake and then it won't happen. So
noted. Stay out of my object.
So I think leveraging on technology, automating what you can, that's really important. Obviously, there is so much out there with our brands. I've tried really hard to, use tools that integrate with each other.
I was about to say, do you sort of have like different like programs and stuff that you use for each one, or are you able to bring everyone in on just one suite or like one tech stack, or how do you sort of manage that?
So there is.
Because tech is something where you can end up paying for multiple things that kind of all do the same thing, and it's very frustrating.
Yeah, and that's probably one of our things that we look at is are you getting value for money? Because there is so many things out there that that you are just paying $50 a month, but it all adds up, and especially when you have all these different locations or all these different brands, that's something you have to be really careful. So I guess making sure things. So there is certain elements that like a certain softwares that we do have separate for our brands, but overall, we make sure that we try and use something that has like an enterprise, an enterprise plan or something. So then you can utilize, and you actually get more features out of those sorts of things anyway as well. So,
and quite often, like especially at enterprise level, you get like better support, etc. So rather than just you sitting in the dark going, "This isn't working," and I've been trying to do it for 5 hours, you can just be like, "Hi, help me." They're like, "Oh, cool, we'll look into this for you." Fantastic, off my plate for the moment, and I'm going to go do this instead.
I've got more important things. And that's one thing. Like when we're implementing a new software, that's one thing that's one of my highest priorities is making sure that they have like a 24-hour support system, and that's a really good support center or a help desk or something like that. And then also looking at their development team, having that conversation with the salesperson or the account manager or whoever you're talking to, and making sure the company's going where you want it to go, or you're happy to work with them.
They're progressing in the direction where you want to.
Because I think in this industry, in that industry, there's a lot of developers that sort of jump places, and it just depends. Yeah, it just depends sort of if the company's actually like.
What their overall vision and purpose is.
They've got that all sorted, because that's really important, like anyone's business. So
Oh, dude, you really get into the weeds, don't you? Holy dooly. I'd hate to be vetted by Maddy Connors.
Imagine.
I don't think I'd come up to scratch. I'm not sure how we passed the bill to work with you.
Oh, dear.
Maddie's like, no, neither do I, Jabe. Anyway.
No.
Okay, so All right, so leveraging tech, so it's using purpose-built where needed, but again, centralising where you can sort of thing too.
Yeah. Probably one other thing, just monitoring your performance. And I know this is, obviously I'm in the finance world, but I think this is super important, just monitoring your performance. And it's funny, we have always done like fortnightly reporting and monthly reporting and checking like benchmarks and all that type of thing and looking at forecasting. It was only recently that we sort of sat down and reviewed all of our reports, and you know, just because you've done it this way for a long time doesn't mean you can't change sort of where you're going. So we've totally simplified what we're looking at, because like financial meetings, yes, people around the table, they're boring for them, but they don't have to be, you know. So that's something that I've probably learnt in recent times is, sometimes less is more. But
sometimes it's only going to be like, yes, you can look at a full report of things, but if each, like, especially if you've been running business for multiple years, you might be like, okay, these 5 things, these 5 figures are the ones that actually make a big difference.
Yep.
So that's where we put our focus.
Yeah. And like, I guess we've sort of implemented certain things like fortnightly or weekly that we look at every single week. So that doesn't necessarily need to be part of that bigger monthly review. So it's just, I guess, working out, what you want to look at and what's of value to look at.
What needs to be timely and part of that weekly like refresh of like where are we positioned at the moment? Because you're dealing
with that stuff straight away. You know, that stuff you're dealing with straight away, whereas this stuff you sort of, you sort of reviewing it and going, and I guess looking at the future. And I think that's something, we've sort of changed in our meetings too, is sort of, I guess, having a recap of the previous month, but then really focusing on that future. So the next few months and where we're sort of heading.
Well, I guess it's just making good use of that time. And same thing, like I have like a monthly, like we have a weekly check-in, I have a monthly management meeting, and that's that agenda, for example, has just had a refresh recently. Like I took a couple of things out, I added a few different things in.
And you don't think it needs it, but then you actually sit back and you're like, wow, that needs to be changed, and there is so many other things we can talk about, and it's going to be, and it keeps it exciting.
Well, it's keeping it purposeful as well. It's not just like, oh, I've ticked the box of I've checked my stuff this month. It's like, well, was that useful? Has that done what you needed to?
Do I care about that KPI? No, I don't.
And the thing is, some things that were important before actually change and evolve over time.
Absolutely,
and it's the same thing, like you said, it kind of brings those two things together. Like with tech, like we use Airtable for our databasing and stuff, and our web dev has been delving into a bit more, and he was playing around with some dashboards, and I've noticed that what he was able to do actually simplify. So we, like when a job closes, like we have retainers and we have quoted jobs. So retainers are just every month. Quoted jobs are like, this is how much we think it is. We do the job, then we bill you for that, right? We would then, at the end of each month, look at all the closed jobs and go, okay, well, we over under for hours. Why not? You know what I mean? So it was lag. It was trying to improve things that had already happened to improve future projects for processes and stuff sort of thing, and quoting and whatever. Whereas I was looking at these dashboards and I'm like, oh, we can actually get real-time reporting, because we do our timesheets every day. If we get them input every single day, we could actually have a live dashboard every single day of where every job is currently up to. So now we have a weekly WIP reporting where it's like, okay, anything that's over 65%, I think it is, we look at it in our team meeting and go, oh yeah, this is nearing the end, that's fine, whatever. So instead of getting to the end of the job and being like, fuck, we went 4 hours over on that, holy shit, we're going to have to swallow all that time. Instead we can be like, okay, this job only has half an hour left, is it close to being done? You know what I mean? So we can manage it proactively rather than reactively going, holy shit, that sucks. So it's those kind of simple changes. So now I don't have to look at that anymore. Like I still kind of glance through it just to make sure, there's nothing that I've missed when we do the weekly one. But that weekly one just really lessens the chances of those things going over now.
Absolutely, yeah. Oh, that's very cool.
Yeah, dude, I don't. When I was younger, I used to love playing with tech a lot. Like as soon as I'd get a new
I think when you get
device,
older, you don't like it.
Oh, dude, I can't stand it now. Like I just want my phone or my laptop or whatever it is, to just be exactly what I had before, but the newer version. I don't want to set it. Whereas before I'd set up shortcuts and you know what I mean? I'd try every single feature to find what I want. Like I must have just had a lot of fucking time on my hands.
I think it's like a younger thing. You sort of get older and you're just like,
just make it work.
You're like, please just work. I just want it how it was.
I still do love tech in a way, but I'm also, I just don't play with it the way I used to. Anyway, back to your points. Anything else that you think you can impart some wisdom on for people?
Probably, I do have a couple more things, but like, nothing's rocket science. You know, nothing what I've said's rocket science.
Though, dude, you'd be surprised someone else will hear that and be like, "Oh, I've never thought of it that way."
Yeah, I guess so. Probably one thing that's probably helped me previously in business, and then just recently with my work in chamber, is honestly just having a plan, just making a plan, and obviously that's part of strategy, and just really, I guess, working out what, you know, they could be 3 things that you want to achieve or something, but then having those action items under them.
How's that going to look?
Yeah, just
you'd be surprised how many people don't have business plans.
Sorry,
that's actually like that's not a given. I love planning, but there are so many people who don't.
Yeah, no, I know, and I think you work with all different people. Some people just like talking about it. Some people just like doing it. I'm a very structured person. I love, like, you know, the spreadsheet and having a plan. And I just think you know, you can communicate with your team better with when you do have that plan, and they can sort of see where you're going and what you want to sort of achieve. We've recently just so I was a vice president of the Chamber of Commerce. We implemented over the last sort of 3 years, we've really honed in on a proper strategy. So we've had, and the vice president's role has been basically keeping everyone accountable for that.
Yeah, cool.
And we've achieved everything that we want to achieve. So that's been really,
I think
really
clear roles and
exciting.
responsibilities comes under that sort of planning stage as well. I think when people really know what it is, like, Maddie, you are going to be responsible for keeping us accountable.
Yeah.
Cool, that's your role now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, when you have clear roles and responsibilities, everyone knows what they're bringing to the table, and it's much easier for everyone to then pull together.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I guess, having... Yeah, I mean, that's that in our business we have very detailed org structures, so everyone knows what their role is and that. So I guess, putting that type of work or that piece of work in someone's role and keeping them accountable to keep everyone else accountable, that's probably something that's...
I never thought of that.
Important.
That's a cool idea, like actually someone's role being the accountability buddy for everybody.
Yeah, it's like you're the accountability coach. So, you know, and I think that person needs to be... they have to be a big thinker, a creative person, but someone who can push everyone and sort of think about things logically. But
be a good problem solver on that sounding board and everything as well.
Just having a plan to keep everyone accountable. I don't know what else. Probably the only other thing I was going to say was just managing your own personal brand, because, you know...
Okay, that's an interesting one. I didn't expect you to say that.
Well, I don't know. I think that's, you know, it's something my dad's always said, you know, it takes 5 minutes to make a bad name and a lifetime to make a good one. So I think...
It's very Warren Buffett as well. Like, it takes a lifetime to build a reputation and 5 minutes to ruin it.
It does. Like, I think in this town too, like, you know, you're dealing with customers, you're dealing with suppliers, you're dealing with people who work with you, and I think keeping a good name for yourself and just, you know, being a good role model for everyone in your business, I think that's really important too. So
Now that's a really good one. I like that. That's a nice wrap up tip.
Good.
I think that's the thing. It's like, don't lose yourself in amongst all of the other brands and stuff. Like, while you're taking care of all of these other things, is remember that your reputation matters too.
Yeah.
You know, and doing things that align with your values and stuff. That's your brand and who you are. And that's what people know you as.
Yeah. So that's how I sort of like to live my life. You know, I've got a baby now, so he's a role model. I'm a role model for him, and that's I think that's just become really important, and so
that's lovely. Anyway. That's really nice. No, it is. It's lovely. It brings it back to a personal note. I like it. Cool. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining me today, Maddie. I really appreciate it. Dude, it's you're right, dude. That's what the coaster's for. I say we went over so much more than I expected that we would. That was a lot of value jam-packed into there. But thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it.
Jay. Thank you for having me, and I've really loved it.
And it didn't show how nervous you were. But I just told everyone.
I'm fine now. My hands have stopped sweating. It's done.
That's one of my nervous tells is my hands sweat. It's so fucking annoying.
No, I've loved being a part of it, and I guess and I'll keep talking, but you go through business and you just constantly doing business, and you sometimes you don't often have the time to stop and think about these things.
So I can reflect on it, like we said before, those reflection points.
Yeah, so this has been great to sort of think, and it's like, well, what does work for us, and and hopefully someone else. Yeah, someone else.
Well, help me.
That.
So that counts.
Okay.
I mean,
that's good.
That's what
one
matters.
Person. That's all that matters.
No, thank you so much. I appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
And thank you for tuning in as well. And I'll see you next time. Cheers.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Marketing and Margaritas. Find more free marketing tips, tricks and laughs at rebelnation.com.au.